We are recording.
Great. Thank you, Jason. We're so glad you're our tech guy for all of these.
Me too.
I bet. I bet.
Likewise for Mr. Brown.
All right. Well, I've got, excuse me, I've got 7 o'clock. So since I think we can go ahead and begin, I am going to call this meeting to order. This is the Perry Township Board of Zoning Appeals hearing. And we're going to start, if we can, and you can unmute if you want, but we are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could, I'd like to call the roll now of the board members. Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Miss Simon,
Here.
Mr. Stack,
Here.
Mr. Warble.
Here.
Great. Our first order of business that we have to get into is this is our first, excuse me, this is our first meeting for 2021. So we have to do nominations for a chair. We have to elect a chair and a vice chair. So do we have any nominations for chair from the floor?
I nominate Mike London.
That was David Stack.
Yes.
All right, David.
I'll second that.
And that was Mike Brown.
Correct.
All right. And Karen, I'm letting you get all the details, okay?
Yeah, I'll follow up.
Okay. Are there any additional nominations for chair? If not, we'll close those nominations and roll call on that motion. Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Stack,
Yes.
Mr. Warble,
Yes.
and myself abstain. Let's get some nominations for vice chair for those days when I want to go fishing like Jerry used to do every once in a blue moon. Are there any, is there a motion for a vice chairperson?
I'll make a motion for Mike Brown.
All right, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any additional nominations for vice chair? If not, I'll call the question. We'll roll call again. Mr. Warble,
Yes.
Mr. Stack,
Yes.
Ms. Simon,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Abstain.
and I'll vote yes. I don't vote very often, but I'll vote on that one. We need some backup. Mr. Brown, you will be vice chair.
Thank you.
That means when I'm not here, you have the honor.
I wish you well for a long time.
I had a feeling that was coming. However, we will have to find some time because I'd like to go over a few things for you in the coming year, Mike.
Yes.
But we'll do that on another day.
Yes, sir.
But thank you for being there for us. If there are any visitors that we have who would like to testify on any cases that are coming up, we have 2 cases this evening. Case BZA 2021-001 and BZA case 2021-002. These cases of Kimmel and Rohr, and then the Ritter case. So if you were planning on testifying either for or against the appeals that are being presented this evening, if you would, we need to be able to swear you in. So is there anyone here who wants to speak either for or against the first case that we are going to hear? the Kimmel Roar case. Is there anybody here who wants to speak in favor or against?
Yes,
There is? Okay.
yes,
and
I
you-
am here.
All right. And your name is?
Stephen Pope.
Stephen Pope. Okay, so
Yes.
Stephen, we're going to have, unfortunately, we can't do it quite as a group as we normally do live. So we're going to do this one at a time.
Sure.
If you could, I'm just going to ask you to listen very closely to the following, and you can answer I do if it applies. Do you sincerely declare and affirm that the testimony that you are about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under perjury and under penalty of perjury? If so,
I do.
all right, thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to speak either in favor or against any of these?
Yes, you should too.
Yes,
Yes, okay, and your name is?
Roxy Roar.
Okay, Roxy, so I'm going to read the same for you, okay? And this is for the recording, of course. So do you sincerely declare and affirm that this testimony you are about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury? If so, answer I do.
I do.
Thank you, Roxy. Is there anyone else who wants to speak either in favor or against either of the appeals that we have before us this evening? No? Okay. So I am,
Yes.
oh, I'm sorry, is there somebody?
Yeah, John Ritter.
John Ritter. Okay, John, we're going to do the same thing, okay? I think you've got the pattern. If you would listen closely. Do you sincerely declare and affirm that the testimony you are about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeal will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under penalty of perjury? If so, answer I do.
I do.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else who wants to provide any testimony this evening, either before or against any appeal? Anyone else? Okay. So as we go through the evening, what I'm going to ask you all to do, and I know this can be a bit awkward, but because some of us are on telephones and some of us are on, tablets, and some of us are on computers. Okay, and we have somebody else who's got their hand up there. What I'm going to ask everyone to do is to make sure that they have their audio on mute. That way we're not going to pick up all of the other sounds of everything else that's going on, and whoever is speaking will be able to be heard clearly, okay? So unless you're speaking or on, you're going to have to put up with the fact that I'm the only one that's going to be live the whole time. Okay. I'm not hearing anybody else who wants to testify, so we need to move on to the first case. This is Kate, and Karen, please correct me if I hit any of the details wrong or I read something wrong, okay?
Okay, I got you.
Great, thanks. This first case that we'll be hearing this evening is case number BZA 2021001. The owners are John C. Kimmel and Roxy Lorraine Rohrer. The address being 11199 Air Hill Road, Brookville, Ohio 45309. The property is located on the north side of Air Hill and west of the intersection of Heckthorn Road. The parcel is number L55027020027, approximately 155 acres. The property is zoned RA. The nature of the appeal is a reduction of lot footage for tract number 4. 300 feet is what is traditionally required. The request is for 38.4 feet. So I would like to ask if there is anyone who would like to speak in favor of this motion or this appeal. If you would, to please speak up, unmute yourself and go right ahead and speak.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
My name is Stephen Pope. My address is 7903
Mhm.
State Route 127, Lewisburg, Ohio. I am the land surveyor representing Mrs. Rohr in this case.
Great.
One thing I want to point out, Mr. Chairman, is that Mr. Kimmel has since deceased.
Yes.
Also, that the address of the property under consideration is 11279 Air Hill Road. The
112.
address, I'm sorry,
11279.
yes.
Okay. Thanks, Stephen.
Yes, the address that you quoted was the tax address where Mrs. Rohr currently resides.
Okay.
Her daughter lives back the lane in this particular residence, I believe is probably the original homestead on this tract of land. It sets back over 1,000 feet north of Air Hill Drive or Air Hill Road.
Yep.
They would like to separate off that home onto its own tract of land, and they would like to preserve as much of the farmland as possible. Now they have sold the farmland, and the gentleman who's interested in buying it wants to keep as much of it as he can. And in looking at the parcel, the house sets back this existing gravel lane, and it only uses or occupies about 38.4 feet in width from the road all the way back to where it opens up to what they mow. To put a 300-foot strip back here, in our opinion, wouldn't benefit either the home or the farm or anyone else for that matter. And it would take that land out of agricultural production, according to Mrs. Rohr and the people who own the property. We feel like that if they're going to separate off the homestead, is just to give the homestead the 38.4-foot strip that occupies the gravel drive and the grass areas on either side all the way back. And that's what the application is for tonight, is to reduce that road frontage or lot width there at the road from 300 to 38.4 feet. Now, I will say, Mr. Chairman, the map that you have for track number 4, the west property line has changed. Just this week, the health department advised us to move that property line further west to encompass more of the existing sanitary leaching area. After some digging and on-site investigation, it was found that it was extended out into the field further than what we had surveyed off the house and barns. So that will change, but that should not affect or is not germane to this case of a reduction of road frontage. So those are the basic facts, Mr. Chairman. If you or the board would have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
Okay. Before we move on to anyone else, I'm going to do my round robin if I can. Mr. Steck, do you have any questions for Mr. Pope at this time?
Unmute. There we go.
There you go, David.
I understand what he's saying, and I agree that that's not a problem.
Any questions?
I have none.
All right. If I could, Ms. Simon, Sherry Simon. And I'm aware it takes a moment to mute and unmute, so not a problem.
Really don't have any questions of the surveyor.
Okay. All right. Mr. Brown
Likewise.
and Mr. Warble.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
I do have a question, Stephen, and that is, you indicated that this current survey that I have here, that there are some variations that because of recent discoveries, that this is not it's complete as far as the request goes of the 38.5 in terms of the width. However, the rest of the actual dimensions on track 4 are not exactly accurate to this. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So I do have a question, is because this has come up in other meetings, in other appeals. How long, just a question, how long would it take to be able to provide a survey map that in fact was accurate for what you're proposing?
Well, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we plan to do that tomorrow. We're going to go out on site, locate that sanitary and put the property line per the health department's requirements. We'll have a new map on Monday of next week.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Excuse me. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this appeal? Roxy? I'm guessing that might mean you.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any comments or anything else that anyone has that wants to speak in favor of this appeal? If not, I'm going to ask if there's anyone who wants to be able to speak against this appeal, who is not in favor of granting this appeal.
Yeah.
And your name is?
Robert and Deborah Thorpe.
Okay, I apologize if maybe I missed it, but Robert, were we able to have you sworn in earlier?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, I'm
We
sorry.
just got the letter. We just got the letter in the mail.
No, it's all right. No, you're fine. I just, but for the meeting, I have to be able to, we do this, we swear in witnesses at the beginning of the meeting, and you may have missed that. So
Yes,
I will have to do that now for both you and I assume your wife.
that's correct.
Okay, so if you will, I'd like you to listen closely. First of all, repeat your name again. Your name is?
Robert
And Deborah,
Thorpe.
Okay, all right. Be asking you both, do you sincerely declare and affirm that the testimony you are about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under penalty of perjury? And if so, answer, I do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you both very much. So, Robert, I'm going to go with you first, or unless you want to have your wife speak first.
We're just confused. We've got a Zoom meeting here that was scheduled to discuss the events of the property. And over the last week, there's been 2 wells drilled directly across from our property. We live on the east side of Heckathorn Road, 5236.
Okay.
And we are directly east of the 2 wells that have just been drilled on the property in question. And we're just very confused about why this is already being done when there is basically this meeting going on to question it.
So is your, I just want to make sure I can clarify for all of us. You have a question, and that is, there appear to be wells that are being dug and drilled prior to an approval, and that affect this particular, you believe it affects this particular appeal. Is that correct?
From what I understand, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know
All right.
that for sure. But
Well,
all
that's-
I know, there's property that is right to our west
Uh-huh.
that is in subject to what we've got here in our letter. And we're just very confused as why there's already being action taken in the wells. They're already pumping water out of them before any decision's been made.
Okay.
Just a little confused.
That's all right. No, that's a legitimate question. Are there any other questions or comments that you or your wife would like to make? You're more than welcome
So
to.
just like I said, that we're just, I mean, we're just totally confused on, I guess we're just trying to figure out what this 38.
What's going on? Is there going to be 50 houses over there, or is there going to be 3 houses over there, or what? We don't know.
Okay.
Michael,
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
What they're talking about is track 1 and track 2 on the map.
Mm-hmm.
There have been 2 wells that has been drilled, and that's for the 2 separate residences that are going in there.
Now, on tract 1 and tract 2, let me ask you this, Karen, because just for clarification, tract 1, tract 2, and tract 3 all currently exist as we have them on the map. Is that correct?
Correct.
And those are those owned all separately, or they've been at least separated parcels, correct?
They are separated parcels, and those 2 tracts belong to Miss Rohr's daughters that are going to build homes on that those sections.
On 1 and 2?
Correct.
Okay, and tract 3, is there?
Track 3 is the home where Mrs. Rohr lives.
Okay, and tract 4
Is the original farm or farmhouse that we're wanting to do the frontage reduction.
Okay, from 300 to 38, right?
Correct.
Okay, or 38 and a half, sorry. Okay, that
But to
helps.
answer his questions, no, there is not a bunch of houses going in there.
Yeah, Robert, it appears that, excuse me, and it's a good question. I would wonder if there's nothing built there. There's 2 tracks on Heckthorn. And those 2 tracks where wells are being dug are already separated out properties, and there will be 1 home, I believe, going on each of those properties.
Which is on how much land is on, how much land is each one of those properties gonna be?
Well, the best I can tell you is the map that I have, and Mr. Pope can, if I brought him in, could probably tell me if this is accurate or not. But it appears to be that these, each of them are approximately 300 feet, and I'm rounding off, 300 by 400 feet on each of the lots.
Okay.
Okay,
300 feet across, and a little over about 418, 420 back.
Okay.
They're squared off.
That sounds good.
Well, yeah, just to try and give you the information, but both of those tracks are squared off tracks with with road frontage on the front.
Okay, so that's every bit of a couple, 2 or 3 acres in each lot.
Yeah,
Approximately.
I won't hazard a guess on that myself without a calculator.
Okay.
That is,
all right.
that is right about 3 acres each, Mr. Thorpe.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Okay,
now I have one other question.
Yes,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
please.
Okay, my other question is, are these single-story homes? Are they gonna be, I mean, what
Yes,
kind
they're single-story homes.
of-
Right.
Okay,
Now, one of
Okay.
the other things that I would suggest to you, because I do have to be careful here, I want you to get your questions answered. By the same token, this evening's appeal has no relationship to those parcels. So no one's asking
Okay.
anything for either of those 2 parcels. This is a parcel that is actually at an address on Air Hill.
Okay. All right.
okay,
That's
And
fine.
so for that reason, believe me, I want you to get answers to your questions. And what I would suggest is to be able to contact the zoning administrator, Karen, who's on with us this evening. And Karen can tell you the best way to get a hold of you. Karen, what's the best number for them to call?
I don't have the number memorized.
Before, Mr. Thorpe, before this evening's over, Karen's going to give us a number, okay?
Yeah, I'll look
Okay.
it up and I'll let you know.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I do want you to get your questions answered. And anytime you have something that goes on it's near your property and you want to know what's happening, you should be able to call the township office and find out.
okay.
Okay. You guys have been very helpful tonight. We sort of got an idea of what's going on.
Okay.
And we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Karen, I want to give you my phone number so that you can give us your number.
They'll give us the number.
I know, but
Okay.
are we gonna
Go right
sit here
ahead.
and wait for half an hour to get it done?
Go ahead. Give your number out.
It's 937-833-35 3512. And
3512,
Robert
Karen.
and Debbie Thorpe.
All right, I have it, Mr. Thorpe, and I will give you a call tomorrow morning. And I'm going to be in the office 9 to 5 tomorrow if you guys want to stop in and have a chat.
We'll be working, but that we'll work out something. I'm just going to hear it now. We'll be quiet and hear about what you're talking about, the other
Yes.
property.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
You're very welcome.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to, is there anyone else who would like to speak against this appeal? I'm hearing none, so I would ask for a motion to close the public portion of this hearing. Is there I'll entertain a motion to that effect. Is there a motion?
Brad
I
will make a
separate.
motion.
I hear Brad Warble is moving to close the public portion. There's a second by Sherry Simon. Audio, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I heard the ayes. Those opposed? And I'll abstain. The motion carries. The public portion of this meeting is now closed. The board, however, the board members will now discuss this. We know the essentials on this is that there is a request for a dramatic reduction in road frontage. I'm going to, so we don't talk over each other, and I can come back to you as many times as you need, but if you don't mind, I'm going to go around one at a time. Sherry Simon, do you have any thoughts on this at this point?
Yeah, I do. And I do have a comment about what the Thorpes brought up about tract 1, 2, 3, and
Yes.
5 on this map. I went by there today as well. I seen the wells being drilled, and I just want to make sure they realize these deeds are not filed. There's no deed references on here yet. And those wells have to be on before they can get a deed on a property.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
you have to have viability.
But yeah, bring it back to tract 4. I've been by there as well. I'm familiar with the property, and I am somewhat opposed to the 38-foot right of way. That's something in zoning that we've tried to eliminate over the years, is having these
Yes.
flag lots or lollipop lots or whatever you want to call them. And I understand with keeping agricultural land, but I also think that it could also become if it's not tilled, it could become a weed nuisance and things like that. But it could also still be owned by, tract 4 owner and still be agriculturally maintained as well. But I guess I am somewhat opposed to a 38-foot driveway. That's even less than what our typical right of way is.
Absolutely, it is.
And the only other thing in looking at the map and is on the tract 3, they're showing the pond on there. And I did look into zoning on that, and that is not setting 75 feet off of the property line, which I don't know if that still applies or would be considered on this. It looks like the pond is, even though it's noted on here, it's only about 50 feet by 100 feet, it looks like, according to the drawing. So I don't know if that also would be a factor in applying the zoning text to this case or not.
Okay.
But in my opinion, and I don't know what kind of changes were made on the west line, but in my opinion, I would like to see the L15 and L14 corner come down to the tract 3, L2 and L3 corner, and just make that a better tract of, land there.
And how about the L7, Sherry?
Yeah, the L7, 6, 8, 9, whatever, all of that whole thing, I'm not real sure what, that's the site he said changed. So,
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
so that may, who knows what that one's gonna look like, but
But
yeah,
are
I
you-
think it could be done in a little bit more tidy way, I guess.
So are you, I just want to clarify for my understanding, Sherry. You're suggesting that the L1514 corner drops straight down
Yeah,
perpendicular to the road and meet, or at least to meet the corner of,
L2 and L3.
okay. And what about, and then hypothetically, whatever the other corner is, are you suggesting that's a straight drop down to the road also?
It would make sense to me, but I don't know why that was contorted the way that it was. But I don't think that it's a consideration to say whether it's going to be tilled or not tilled, because I think arrangements can be made.
You mean it could
That,
be tilled regardless of who owned it,
right,
or
right,
regardless of which parcel it was on? Right?
correct.
Okay.
I mean, if that's so much the issue, but, and then you get into, again, I don't know if the pond requirements apply in this case. I couldn't find anything on size of the pond, but it does in Article 48.
Yep.
It does not comply with being 75 feet off the property line. So again, I don't know if that's also something we would have to, there would be a requirement for a variance on that.
Can I ask, because I don't see, can I ask where, can you give me a reference point on that, Sherry?
On what?
On the pond? Are we talking, because I'm not.
There's a little on the drawing, on the surveyor's drawing in the lower left corner, there's parcel 3 is detailed, track 3 is detailed on the lower left corner of the drawing.
Oh, yes, you're talking about that.
And that pond is 25 feet from the property line.
Right, but that, and it's 25 feet from the property line. So, and because of that, even if it was grandfathered, it still affects the new parcel. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I'm not sure if, because track number 3 has also not been split. I mean, there's no deed on that split. So that line does not exist as far as a deed. L2 does not exist on a deed.
So the intention here is to create what about 1 and 2? Do 1 and 2 have a deed?
No.
So Karen, I'm going to pull you in on this. Sherry, stay live with me. Karen, are you aware of a deed on 1, 2, and 3 that exists yet?
No, but I do know that they are working on that.
So it's
They
planned.
are working on the split, yes.
Okay. So that's a planned, all right. Because it doesn't have a deed yet, that does present a problem. In other words, it's again, something else that's sitting, waiting. I do understand, and you're right, it won't meet code if it doesn't already exist. Okay, that was my misunderstanding. Thanks, Sherry.
Yeah.
So we do have the issue of the mapping on that that west corner, but also you're right as far as track, 2 and the road frontages. It looks like there's a reduction, going to be a request for a reduction on the road frontage on tract 1, 2, and 3. Not much, but there'd probably have to be. There is a problem with. There would be a problem as far as getting a variance for the pond.
Right. And I think as long as they're staying under 3 acres, they're okay on their frontage on those tract 1, 2, and 3s.
Okay. So the only thing would be the pond.
Yeah, the pond on there, if that is applicable. I don't know if it is in our zoning that a pond is to be 75 feet off the property line. But like you said, if it's found that, and soil and water would be the one to give you the determination on that probably.
Okay,
So with that being said, and since there is no deed to tract 3, you could almost again take that L15, L14 corner and on an angle bring that down and probably, I mean, I don't know, but maybe there would be the possibility of extending.
of picking up the 75 feet,
Right, exactly.
which
You'd
would
be
solve the track 3 problem.
right. And I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at the map. I'm not out there
Right,
measuring, but you're going to gain a little bit if you kept that on an angle.
right.
You would come down and possibly pick up the amount of square of length you need there.
Okay. Sherry, is there anything else that you want to point out to the board this evening?
Well, the only other thing, and like you said, and I think you hit on it in the beginning, was the fact that we're not looking at a map that is correct. And I have a problem with that because of course you're going to have to make your decision and reference this map.
That's
So
right.
there's actually a part of me that says it might be, I mean, and I think you should go around the rest of the
I
board
will.
and that, but there's a part of me that almost says maybe it should be tabled until we have an accurate map. And with that being said, as you go around to the rest of the board, then you'll get the other input and maybe they could just bring, like I said, I'd rather it be a decision made on the map we're looking at, not one that's going to be.
Okay.
And that's,
especially as there's reference here to another track that's not yet dated that it has the potential for a variance problem anyhow.
right, on the pond. Now, track
Right.
1 and 2 is, they're in, those are, those are fine with zoning. The length and width of those lots are fine. And the length and width of track 3 is fine, but the pond might.
Right.
And the only reason why I commented on that is because it was put on the drawing.
Sure.
So, so that's why tract 1, 2, and 3 are not a part of this meeting, because they technically, and then tract 5, of course, there's no zoning problems on that.
Okay.
So that's
Anything
all I
else,
have.
Sherry?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
If I could, I'd like to, and we can come back to you, Sherry, if you have need. I'd like to continue with the other board members now. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
A thought
I
or
agree. With
question?
I'm on board with Sherry. I think that it would be appropriate to have the correct track number 4 as far as the layout's concerned, and I'm also on board with her as far as the frontage is concerned with the 38.4 not working.
Okay. All
That's
right.
it.
Do you any other questions, Mike, or?
No, sir. I've been
okay.
out there. I've looked at everything. I understand the layout and everything. I'm good with everything. Thank you.
Okay. All right, good. Mr. Stack, thoughts?
Sherry, it's
I'm sorry, you're muted, David.
mute again. There.
There you go.
I agree with Sherry, the fact that it's not completely done yet and they're asking for us to vote. I would feel comfortable seeing the real thing. And I'm sure it wouldn't be that difficult, having seen it, to just simply change a few things, because, there's nothing there other than farmland.
Sure.
And it could be changed to comply, I think.
Okay. Any other thoughts, David?
No, sir.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Warble, Brad.
Yeah, I'm heading the same direction. We need a finished design to be able to look at.
You mean an accurate map?
An accurate map, yeah, and they need to take into consideration what we're talking about, frontage and so forth too.
Okay. So, anything else, Brad?
Just that we probably better go ahead and table this and no additional charges to them from the appeals department.
Okay. I'd like to ask a question here of those of you, the four of you that are appeals members. Because I think this is both an opportunity, maybe a little bit of a headache, I understand, for the appellants, but I think it's also an opportunity. If what we're asking for is a corrected map, that takes into account the issues that Mr. Pope was talking about earlier, that he said they could have a new map by Monday. I want to get an understanding as far as the road frontage is concerned, because what I'm hearing, and I want you to tell me if I'm hearing you correctly, that that generally speaking, the four of you are that you're not necessarily objecting to any reduction, but you are objecting to a reduction this dramatic. And you'd like to see something much more conforming to what we have been doing, which is to try not to create, as Sherry says, we've called them a lot of different names over the years, the lollipops, the flags, all of the different that we've attempted to have that. The lines of properties not be also crazy and impossible as the future goes. That's my sense, is that you may not be saying it must be, in fact, 300 feet, but at least it needs to come much closer to conforming with some straight lines and take into consideration where this other tract is too. Is that the sense? Am I just picking up the sense of this? Because if that's the case, I think it's important that and I'll certainly entertain a motion to table, but if that's the case, we certainly need to share that information, to be clear about that information for Mr. Pope and Ms. Rohr, so that they can take that into consideration in putting it in. Because if they come back, it's important that they know that the sense of this board's feeling, that if they're coming back with another one that has the top part of the flag, if you will, fixed, or the lollipop fixed in terms of the accuracy, but it still has a 38.5-foot wide frontage, my sense is you're not comfortable with that. Is that still correct, Sherry?
Yes. Yes, I would not vote in favor of that 38-foot. I would not vote probably in favor of a 50-foot either. I really want to see that 244.72
Right.
feet consumed into one lot or the other. I mean, it makes to me more sense to put it in with the
Track
back,
four.
the track 4.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Okay. Mr. Warble, is that your sense too?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, Mr. Brown
Yes, I'll agree with that.
and Mr. Stack?
I agree. And after the fact, when the boundaries are set, if somebody wanted to farm that part of it,
Sure.
it really wouldn't change anything other than it would be accurate and be more to the required code.
Okay. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to entertain a motion that this appeal will be tabled, and it will be tabled for at least, when we table no longer than 3 months. Does anyone have a problem with anything longer than a month or two?
No.
No.
No. All right. So we're going to table, I'm going to entertain a motion that we table this appeal for a time period to last no longer than 90 days from today. It can come back as soon as next month if everything's ready. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion, Michael.
Motion's been made by Mr. Brown. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Simon seconds. I'll call for the question. Roll call. Mr. Stack?
I'm good with that.
I'm going to go with an aye. Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Warble,
Aye.
Ms. Simon.
Aye.
And I'll abstain, chair abstains, and so the motion carries that this is tabled for now. And please take into consideration what you've heard this evening. I mean, I think this is an opportunity. There's not going to be any extra charges. Know the sense of the board. If in fact, the best of intentions, I understand, but if you come back with this, you already know the answer. It's important that you have information beforehand. So I think you know where our sensibilities are. And I think you, Mr. Pope, I think in terms of advising Roxy, Ms. Rohr, that you know what we're looking at. What we've been trying to do over the last 20 years. And
Thank
if
you, Mr. Chairman.
You're absolutely. And if you've got any questions as you go along the way, please get in touch with Karen at the zoning office, because she'll be able to help you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Does anybody need a break? No, I'm going to rock on then. If you don't get unmuted fast enough to say I need a break, you ain't getting one. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next case appeal that is in front of us this evening. And that is case number BZA 2021002. The owner is Mr. John Ritter. The address being 5651 Heckathorn Road, Brookville, Ohio. The property is located on the west side of Heckathorn Road and south of the intersection of Westbrook Road. The parcel number is L55 027 020005. It is approximately 106 acres, and this property is zoned RA. The nature of this appeal is that the applicant wants to build a garage with an apartment with 2 bedrooms to live in while building a house. So I'd like to first on this appeal, I'd like to ask if there is anyone who would like to speak in favor of this appeal. If so, please unmute and let me know if you have been sworn in.
Yes, John Ritter.
John, yes, you've been sworn in, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay, I don't have a lot to say, but we are hoping to build a house there in the next maybe 2 to 3 years. But before we do that, we would like to build this garage with a living area for my wife and my daughter and myself, so we could live there. And what we would plan on doing would be moving in there and selling our existing property on Air Hill, and then building our house on this new property. That's really about all I have to say, but I could answer any questions if anybody had any.
Good, thank you very much. I appreciate it, John. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this appeal? If not, hearing none, I'm going to ask if there's anyone here at this Zoom meeting who would like to speak against this appeal. I'm hearing none, so I will entertain a motion to close the public portion of the meeting. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make that
So moved.
motion.
Ms. Simon makes the motion. It's been seconded by Mr. Brown. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I heard enough ayes. Motion carried. The public portion of the appeal is closed. So let me do the same thing on this. I'd like to get your thoughts if I could. I'm going to go different order. Sherry, I won't put you on the spot first. Mr. Brown, do you have any thoughts about this appeal?
I've been back there. I know exactly where the property is and all the work that's gone into getting it to where it is right now. I honestly myself don't have a problem with it if we closely word it like we did previously. in the BZA case 2020-003.
Where we did the deed restriction?
Correct.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. So just for everybody's reference, who may not be aware, there was a request that was somewhat similar. I don't have the exact language right in front of me. It may take me a minute to get it, but there was an appeal earlier last year where someone was asking, and the board did decide to allow it, but under very strict conditions. Number one was that it would always be known that it was part of the same residence. It could not be considered a separate residence. Second of all, that if in fact a home was built on the property, that this could no longer be a residence. It could not be a mother-in-law suite. Its usage must change. This is what we've done in the past. And we've also indicated that it must be noted in any deed or as an addendum, if you will, to a deed, that it is noted that this is in fact not, once the home is built, that this garage space is no longer an apartment. It is not allowed to be used as an apartment. It is not allowed to be rented. It may not be looked at as a residence in any fashion. And those are the deed restrictions, or the restrictions to the motion that we did in the past. I believe that captures most of it, Mike.
I think the one point that's specific that we need to add to there, that there's only one address for that location.
Yes, and that, thank you. That was part of the restriction that we did. There can only be one address that can never be considered a separate residence with a separate address. Anything else, Mike?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Warble, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm on the same page, but I'm looking at this satellite, the Google map.
Yeah,
Is the house, or the garage going to be in front of the house? It's kind of hard to see.
oh, that's a good question.
I
You
mean,
mean
it appears from the, looks like it was magic
Yeah.
marker, and it looks like the garage is, you'll come to the garage before you come to the house on the driveway.
Yeah, that's going to require, yeah, that's a problem. I see what you mean. We do have a requirement that a garage or those facilities must be behind from the road frontage. Is that what you're thinking, Brad?
Correct.
Okay, so we need to get some clarity on that. We'll do that in just a moment. Any other questions, Brad, or thoughts?
No, it will be a nice setting. It's far enough off the road. I don't know that the garage in front of the house is going to be a big deal, but it probably needs to be addressed.
Okay,
That's all I have.
all right, thank you. And just forgive me for a half a minute while I make some notes. Okay. Mr. Stack, do you have any thoughts you want to share with us on this appeal or questions?
Yes, I agree with that. There was one thing that I think maybe should be added, just for clarity's sake, is when in fact the house is built and everything is finished, that perhaps the zoning administrator could check the, in this case, the barn and the temporary residence to ensure that it was in fact undone.
Oh, so you mean there's an inspection? We did talk about this before, that there's an inspection to make sure that it is not a residence.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Steck?
No, that is it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Simon, Sherry, any thoughts?
Sorry, couldn't find the unmute button.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff.
I will say that I like the maps on the other case a little better. They're a little easier to read. for
Yeah.
my eyes anyway. On this Google map too, I'm trying to figure out, I agree with Brad about the garage placement in front of the house, that would have to have something. What is the other? I didn't drive, I will honestly say I did not go all the way back in there because I wasn't really sure if
Sure.
we're, supposed to be doing that these days or not doing that these days. I wasn't sure, but I know where this is. And is there an existing house somewhere there? Is it maybe on the other parcel? The little pie-shaped parcel?
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
But I wasn't sure what that other lined, like there's the house and then there's the garage and then there's another building or a square rectangle
Okay.
that has a line through it. What is that?
So, all right. Any other questions, Sherry?
Nope, just that.
So let me do this. Mr. Ritter, I'm going to ask if you can unmute and maybe you can answer a few questions for us, if you would. We're going to allow that during this portion because I want you to be able to have this clarified for everybody so that they can make the best decision. As far as this Google map is concerned, it appears to a number of board members that the garage would be placed in relationship to the road, would be in front of the home. Is that what's on here or not?
The garage should be behind the house. I mean, when you're coming up the lane and turning to go in, you would come to the garage before you come to the house. But off of the road, the house will be sitting closer to the road than what the barn is there. I had the zoning appeal paper that I got from Karen, and it shows on there that the barn needs to be behind the house, and that was my understanding, the way it should have been on that drawing if it's not.
Okay. Karen, you're there, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Are you clear on this?
From what I've not driven back there to see
Okay.
anything yet. But he is correct. I did give him the information that the garage cannot be, it has to be back behind the house. At least to the rear wall, no closer than the rear wall of the house.
Right.
And
Right.
it is hard to read this particular Google map that way.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because it would require a variance there.
Yes.
And then Sherry had another question. Sherry, your other question.
Yeah, it was, is that other drawing, is there another house back in there or is it just on that other parcel that's the 22-acre parcel?
Yeah, on this 106-acre parcel that we're talking about, there's no other residence on there. It used to be part of the Shearbrook farm years ago, and they had an old farmhouse back there, and that was all tore down before I actually purchased the property. So, yeah, on the 106 acres, there is no other house, residence, barn, or anything right now. It's just all tillable.
Oh, okay. And I think now I'm looking at this Google, I think all of us are looking at the north driveway as being the road. And it's really, if you go over to the far right, you'll see Heckathorn on there. I made that mistake too.
Yeah, there may be a couple of things like that could be, the perceptions are off.
Yeah, because the other thing is like the drive going back in there, and then there's a drive off of it that goes over to where this house and garage that we're talking about is.
Okay.
But you said there's no other house on the 106 acres.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all my questions.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ritter. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. So it sounds, please tell me if I'm reading the tea leaves on this one wrong, because it's difficult for all of us certainly to speak at the same time. It's easier to do that in the room than it is here, because then you can't hear anything. But if I'm understanding the board, it sounds to me like the board is disposed toward granting with significant restrictions similar to, and maybe a few in addition to, what we have done before. In other words, the precedents that we have set in the past, that you would like to maintain those precedents when it comes to second residences on a single parcel. Is that the case, Mr. Brown?
That is correct.
Okay, and Sherry, that is the same place. Are you in line with that?
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Warble?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I have a question there, kind of pertains to that. Will we get a regular surveyed map that lays this thing out so we can see what's going on a little bit better?
Yeah, I was wondering about that myself.
Looking at these, it looks like Mr. Ritter, isn't Mr. Pope, isn't he your surveyor?
Not as of right now, but he very possibly will be.
He might.
Since he's working on the other property right now. I did that drawing on the Google map myself there.
Okay.
But once we move forward here, when I know I have the go ahead, we'll go with all the engineered drawings and all that we need.
Okay, Mr. Ritter, can I ask you what time frame were you looking at?
The sooner the better. I got an architect that was going to start drawing once I got the approval, but
Okay.
I'm willing for whatever here on that.
Okay. Just as a point of reference, Mr. Ritter, do you understand the concerns and the suggestions that are being made by the board?
Yes, I do. And I think everything sounds doable there. Like I say, we just want to have something to live in while we're working, and then after that, whatever restrictions you had there, I'd be willing to abide by.
Okay. I'm going to make a suggestion to the board, and I don't actually like doing this a lot, but I am going to at least entertain a motion that we table this to allow time for an appropriate map. We are talking about a building on a piece of property. We are talking about plans for a couple of buildings on property. And I agree with Mr. Warble. I don't believe we have an accurate map. One of the things that we have tried to maintain as a standard is that when we make an approval or a rejection of an appeal, we do in fact reference a map to be able to do that in the submission. And I know that that's not always asked for, but I'm going to suggest to the board at least, and we can discuss this, I'm going to suggest that we table this long enough, and it could be the same, under the same circumstances, no increase in, no charges whatsoever to the applicant, and allow for no more than 3 months for it to be resubmitted with an appropriate map. And that will also allow time, I believe, for the board to be able to do a little bit of homework on the what the appeal or the motion conditions might be on this. What's your sense? How do you feel about that, Mr. Stack?
I'm with you. I agree with that. I think we should table it.
Mr. Brown?
I'm on board.
Mr. Warble?
I agree. I mean, it's not, he's gonna have to get this regardless, so it's just slowing the approval down a little bit. It looks like, it comes back with a good map, and probably gonna show the leach line and the well and all that good stuff.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sorry. I get a little excited with the details. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to know some of those things. Yeah, it makes a difference. Miss Simon, your thoughts?
I agree with what you're talking about. Yep.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to entertain a motion that case number, let me grab it and get the right one. I've got so many papers moved all over the place here. Here we go. That this case number, let's see, BZA, I'm going to look at the wrong one. I know it. Here we go. That in case BZA 2021002 be tabled to allow for time for additional submissions. That time would be no more than 3 months from today. Is there a motion to that effect?
Yeah, Brad will make the motion.
The motion's been made by Mr. Warble. Is there a second to that?
I second it.
It's been seconded by Mr. Steck. I'd like to call the question on this. Mr. Steck,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Warble,
Aye.
and Ms. Simon,
I
and the chair abstains. So we will table this to a future date to allow time. We've allowed 3 months for the applicant to be able to provide adequate reference maps. And I'm going to suggest we may have a little homework to make this easier for the next time also on our own, and really be prepared with some of these details to maintain the precedent that we've set before. Karen, do you have any questions about what we're doing here?
No, I don't have any questions. But I do have a question for Mr. Ritter.
Go ahead.
Mr. Ritter, do you have any issue with us or myself being able to drive back into your property and to see where this stuff is going?
It may take Mr. Ritter a moment to unmute.
I think I got it there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Finally. No, I do not have a problem at all. You can drive back in there
Okay.
at any time. And if you'd like to meet me out there, I'm just working around the corner at the mulch yards. I could meet anybody there that wanted to meet me there.
Okay, I just don't like to go on the property without getting permission first.
Yeah, that is fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ritter. And I want to suggest any of the board members, Mr. Brown, Mr. Warble, Ms. Simon, Mr. Steck, to please feel free, get in touch with Karen if you'd like to be able to go on and take a closer look at this between now and whenever it comes back to the board. Okay. You see, we have Mr. Ritter's permission. Are there any other questions about this particular appeal? If not, I'm going to say thank you very much, Mr. Ritter. I hope if you've got any questions whatsoever, please get in touch with Karen. She'll be able to help clarify those for you between now, and you'll know that you have a period of time to be able to address these questions. Okay, let me see. I think we have the minutes, the next thing on my agenda, and y'all tell me if I'm missing something. The next thing on the agenda here is the minutes from the November the 19th meeting, which was our last meeting last year, November 19th, 2020. I'd like to ask board members, I'd like to ask each of you if in fact you have received those minutes. Sherry, have you received them?
Yes, I did.
And Mr. Warble?
Yes.
Okay, Mike
Yes.
and David?
Yes.
Okay, everybody's got them. Now there comes the big question. Have you read them? Mr. Brown?
Yes, I have, and I found a spelling error on page 4, 2/3 of the way down.
Okay. Mr. Warble, have you had a chance to review these?
Yes. That's fine.
Okay. And Sherry, have you had a chance?
Yes.
And Mr. Steck, have you had a chance?
I did do that.
Okay, then what I'd like to do is, I'd like to go ahead and get some corrections first, and then entertain a motion to waive the reading. But Mr. Brown, you had a couple corrections?
Just one, right after Brad is listed there, about 2/3 of the way down on page 4, it says that they're talking about the website and
Okay.
Jason. I think it should be an R instead of an ARE instead of a ER.
Okay.
That's the only thing I saw through the whole.
Wow. That's pretty good. Okay. So
That means I'm getting better.
that's a good thing. All right.
Yeah.
Are there any other corrections or changes to the minutes? All right. So before I entertain this next motion, I do want to ask, is there anyone here who would like to hear these minutes read? Hearing none, I know I didn't give you much time. Hearing none, I'm going to entertain a motion that we waive the reading of these minutes and that these minutes be approved as submitted with the correction made by Mr. Brown. Is there a motion to that effect? Mr. Stack?
I make that motion.
All right. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. And let me ask this, is there any objection? On minutes, with no objection, so ordered. Are there any other announcements that we have, Karen, or any other announcements or questions or comments for the board this evening?
No, as of right now, this is the only 2 cases that I have for the BZA. I did have one come before me, and I had Mike Brown. He took a look at things for me to make sure that we're not, or that I'm not scheduling BZA meetings that don't need to happen. And so I had Mike take a look. Mike said that everything was in compliance, so we were good. So we did not have to book that one.
Good.
I do have try to double check. The other thing that I've learned tonight is that I will try to make sure that people that are bringing the information into me, that they do have their surveys. I'm not going to accept making an appointment with our scheduling a BZA meeting without those surveys.
I think that will be helpful, Karen, and especially as it relates to anything that we would normally be referring to a variance from some zoning code that refers to a map, the placement of property, the road front. I mean, all different kinds of things that there may be. I would look very seriously on something as to whether or not a map is not needed.
Okay.
Okay. The only other thing that I want to mention, just as a, Brad, go ahead. The only other thing, yes, Brad?
Sorry, I was just muting and unmuting, sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. This is a challenge for all of us. Believe me, we know. I just want to make a mention of this. We have talked in the past, last year and the year before, that we may try to create a work session for the Board of Zoning Appeal to potentially to meet with others within the township. It seems to me there's a couple of things that ought to be in consideration. One, it's not a meeting, it's just for educational purposes, not a meeting to make any decisions about anything. If there are any changes to the zoning code, that really isn't ours. We may have a recommendation and we can recommend that to the zoning commission. We do not make code. Our only job here is to try to interpret the code and to allow for variances and to make judgments on appeal. So I guess I want to say that, Karen, as this thought has gone around, I know in the past for about working together, I think it's a great idea. My suggestion is it's probably going to be the zoning commission and the trustees that would be really wise to get together. The only reason I think that we could really add value from the Board of Zoning Appeal is to be able to give the benefit of the experience, excuse me, that we've had over the years as to some of the most common things that we've seen. And if there's any recommendations like that, that any of you as board members have that we could recommend to the zoning commission, you might want to tweak this one 5 feet or whatever it might be. But beyond that, I think that that kind of a work session is probably going to be most productive between the trustees and the zoning commission, as opposed to the Board of Zoning Appeal.
And I do like that. What the hang up at this point is that I really want to have these meetings, but I want to be able for us to be face to face.
Sure.
Instead of the Zoom. I think that would be more beneficial. And so that's why and of course things are a little nuts right now at the office and different things that are going on. So it's been a little difficult trying to get that scheduled on top of everything else.
There's
so
time.
as soon as I'm able to do that, I definitely want to move forward. And any subjects or any comments or whatever from the BZA board, I welcome. And I want to also thank all of you for your support and your understanding. And I know that I can call on any of you at any time, and I really, really appreciate that. And I want you to know it.
Thanks, Karen. So I do encourage you, David, Mike, Brad, Sherry, all of you, I encourage you that if you have something that you think that based upon what you've seen over the number of years, that make those suggestions, get it to Karen. And then when that meeting happens between the trustees and the commission, the zoning commission, we can at least share that input about what we've seen a lot of or not a lot of, or what we might recommend. I am suggesting that we not be there for the most part because we're going to be the ones making these judicial decisions about an appeal. And I believe it may be inappropriate or considered inappropriate for us to be part of the body that's actually deciding or appears to have significant influence in making a decision about what the actual zoning code is. Our responsibility is to interpret and to make decisions on the appeals as they are, without making decisions on the code itself. That's my last comment on that. Is there anyone else that has any questions or any other comments that they feel we need to share this evening? If not, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn for the evening. Do I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
The motion's been made to adjourn by Mr. Warvel. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded. Great. I'm going to call the question on this. All those in favor, excuse me, of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Seck?
Aye.
Mr. Warvel?
Aye.
Ms. Simon?
Aye.
And the chair agrees. Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Michael.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Jason, thank you.